everyone, and welcome to Booth University College's Counsellors Breakfast. We are thrilled to have you here in our home, if you will, to share a meal, share stories, share precious time, and at a few points along the way, share how Booth University College can benefit your students. The community of Booth University College is located on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Cree, Oji-Cree, Assiniboine, Dene, Dakota peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. We are in Treaty 1. We give thanks and honor to those who walked here before us. To think back many hundreds of thousands of years to all of the people that walked on this land to the junction of the Assiniboine and Red River. As in the past, the diversity of peoples who occupy this land and the emerging culture that enrich our community today present to us an invitation to build a stronger community as we learn to walk very gently with each other in the spirit of truth and reconciliation. My name is Georgine Van de Mosseler, and I'm the Director of Advancement at Booth UC. I am your breakfast host, like on television, I like to think, and I am in my element as in my spare time. I love hosting family and friends at my home. So as we just finished celebrating Thanksgiving weekend, I thought it might be nice to start our time together in a similar theme and combine it with a few introductions. I give thanks to our amazing leadership team. I give thanks to our faculty, our keynote speaker, Jen Meixner, the advancement team, student services team, and especially the hospitality team who are with us today. Most importantly, though, we give thanks to you, our guests, and our fellow educators for joining us and sharing in the commitment of education for a better world. The agenda today is fairly informal on purpose. I want to leave us time to get to know each other, get a sense of who we are, what your students may need, and why they would succeed at Booth UC. At the end of the event, if you wish to have a tour of the facilities, Matt, our from Student Services Coordinator, Nicolette, our International Admissions Counselor, or I will be available to wander around with you. I am thrilled to ask our President, Reverend Dr. Rob Fringer, to come up and say a few words before we begin our meal. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you, Georgine. Excited about being here this morning and of having you all here. Thank you for coming to visit us here on our campus and to hear a little bit more of who we are and what we do. I was thinking, as I wanted to just share a little personal story, I was thinking about my own history within education growing up, as it were. I was one of those students who cared very little about education. It's ironic where I ended up. I don't remember doing much throughout my primary and high school careers. A matter of fact, because of the lifestyle I was in, I don't remember much of my high school. I do remember, however, along the way, as I was moving through both my elementary school, junior high, and into high school, various teachers and counselors who tried to speak into my life in a variety of ways. And I didn't always listen. I wasn't that good listener. I had many, I will tell you, I can remember having many speakers, or many teachers and counselors speaking into my life saying, "You have so much potential, why don't you apply yourself? I think you could do this, I think you could do that." And I had my own ideas of what I wanted to do. As so many of our students have, they have their own journey that they need to walk and discover for themselves. But what was interesting when I finally did kind of come back around and sense this calling towards education, which surprised me probably as much as everybody else. Those voices came back in my head from those who had spoken into my life over the years and had seen within me the possibilities. And it was sometimes those voices that pushed me forward, when I was cramming for an exam or when I was, up at 3 a.m. trying to finish a paper that was due at midnight. Those things along the path, those people, those relationships. And so I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for each one of you and the work you do to support the growth of students, to intervene when added support is needed, and to advocate for students to reach their goals. I thank you for that. And sometimes you are in this position, in this job, that can be very thankless. You're in a position with students like I was who don't really want to hear what you have to say and don't really necessarily listen well. And yet you continue to carry on. And I would imagine, like most of us, it is because of your passion for others. It is because of your calling to the place where you are at and to the kind of work you are involved in. It is because of relationships and your desire to see individuals, one person at a time, transformed and find their way into their own places of calling, their own places of being, and to feel comfortable in who they are and in their identity and in their worth, apart from what others in their lives may have said. And so thank you for the work you do. Thank you for your commitment to others. And I just end by kind of sharing, that's part of who we are at Booth UC. We care about people. Our calling is higher education. Our calling is the training of minds, but it's also the transformation of lives. We have this bold claim of education for a better world. And we truly believe that happens and takes place one person at a time through relationship, through sitting across the table, through various interactions in the hallway, through all kinds of those relational acts that draw us together and give us hope. We are people who believe in bringing together faith, rigorous scholarship, and passion for service, and desire to see the places where we are and live be transformed by the people that we are investing in, just like you do as well. And so again, thank you for who you are and what you do, and thank you for being here today.
Thanks so much, Rob, for getting us started and setting the stage for our time together. I'd like us to, if we could just bow our heads and in our own minds give thanks for where we are, give thanks for the time that we are together, give thanks for the hands who made our food, for the people who grew our food, for the fact that we have food, that we are not here in conflict, but to also think of those who are without food and who are in conflict in our world today. Thank you for being with us and sharing, and we ask our Creator God to bless our meal together. Enjoy conversation and connection over breakfast, and see you back in a few minutes for a keynote speech. Thank you. I would like to start by saying thank you to our hospitality team for such a wonderful breakfast. So a little round of applause for Angie and her team. Moral courage for Mobilizing Justice. This was a table topic at a friend's gathering. I wouldn't even know where to start. I suspect that after we hear from Jen, we'll have a better idea of the how and the why, and it might just be the next table topic at your staff lunch or at your class. Jen Meixner is an assistant professor at Booth University College in the School of Social Work. She's also Booth UC social work grad herself. Jen went on to do her master's in Indigenous governance and has a keen interest in Indigenous justice issues and community-led action. In her free time, you'll catch her several days a week in local hockey rinks, cheering on and managing her two sons' two hockey teams. Welcome, Jen.
Georgine. The hockey careers are definitely my full-time job right now. Okay, thank you for having me. So we're going to talk about moral courage for mobilizing justice. So tell me you're a social worker without telling me you're a social worker. Okay, so when I was preparing for this talk, I wanted to share about a topic that was inspired by some of the work that I get to do in the community, and also that was inspired by students here at Booth UC. So I've been a sessional at Booth since 2019. I came on full-time in 2022. So I love my time here so far. I love working with students here. What I love about them, many things, but one of the things that I get to see of social work students and other students that come into my classes is that they ask critical questions. They get to learn about themselves. We talk about our social location. We practice reflexivity. They challenge themselves and us to be the best whole versions of ourselves, personally and professionally. Our mission here at Booth UC, here we go, come on, is grounded in values of hope, social justice, and mercy. So I think that this topic is going to align nicely with that. I'm incredibly humbled and understand the important responsibility that I have as an educator, a mentor, an ally, researcher in promoting these values in our students and in the work that I get to do in the community. And I think that these are values that we can all relate to. You don't have to be a social worker or a student. Many of you exhibit these things in the work that you do with the young people in your lives. So hopefully after this presentation, you'll be inspired to continue some of these conversations in your own circles of influence. So at the bottom here, you'll see, as leaders, mentors, advocates, and allies, we have the responsibility to have critical conversations in our circles of influence and take action for mobilizing justice. So this means for us as individuals in our personal lives, but also in the work that we do with students and young people. As Georgine shared, I'm a registered social worker. Prior to coming to academia, I worked in direct service delivery for 15 years. I worked for the justice system for over a decade and then at the Manitoba Advocates Office. I went on to work for First Nations government and Indigenous nonprofit community-based organizations after that. And when I entered the field initially, I was working on a Bachelor of Arts degree at U of W and working for probation services. After graduating there, I came to Booth and I did the after degree social work program. And that allowed me to continue working and studying. And studying social work provided me with a critical framework and practice skills to not only carry out my basic work duties, but it also informed the way that I thought about the work that I do. So with a combination of lived experience, professional skills, and experience, it became apparent or reaffirmed to me that many of the systems that we work in do not actually work the way that we hope that they would. And in fact, that sometimes they're harmful to the people that they serve. So for instance, missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, the National Inquiry determined that the reasons for outrageous rates of violence against Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people is the result of actions and inactions of systems. Additionally, in 2020, the federal correctional investigator made a statement reporting that the reason for increasing disproportionate rates of incarceration for Indigenous people is because the system itself sees itself as a passive recipient of people with problems, as opposed to an active contributor to the problems that people face. What I realized was that I wasn't the only person working in these systems that saw the harm that was happening. but that many of us didn't know how to actually make the change that we wanted to see. My heart work today is that of mobilizing justice. So for me, this means a commitment to utilizing my circles of influence, so standing up here today. One of the goals is to bridge the gap between acknowledgement and good intentions to action and to change. So circles of influence are the people that you sit with at your dinner table, the friends and families you see on the weekend, your coworkers, people you volunteer with, sports teams, your students, all of those things. So I want to introduce a couple of concepts, and I'm sure you're familiar with them. So first, justice. Justice typically refers to fairness, and while people generally agree that justice is good, it means different things to different people, and we experience it differently. So for example, some people believe that police uphold justice and their presence ensures a sense of safety, while others will experience fear, discrimination, and injustice. Justice is a process. It requires a series of actions, and it's dynamic. So it's not just a one thing that we can do and then all of a sudden things are just, right? Justice is a guiding force in ethics, and I like this, the guiding force, because it's a reminder that justice is always evolving and not just an end goal, but a process. Ethics are often practical. It's the things that we do. So in social work, for example, we have specific professional ethics that we are required to follow as registered social workers. And the same is true for other professions, agencies, institutions, and systems. Some ethics in those places are defined clearly, while others are less clearly defined and require some interpretation. So ethics are the rules, the actions, and the behaviors that we rely on to carry out the pursuit of justice. Now, morals are our way of knowing and understanding right and wrong or good and bad, and these are often influenced and informed by societal or structural ethics and interpretations of justice. So as I mentioned before, when I was working within systems in direct service delivery, myself and many coworkers, we often found ourselves conflicted between our personal morals and guiding policies and legislation. And the same is true when I have the opportunity to work with students, particularly social work students. We talk about this all the time. We have courses about ethics and ethical dilemmas and all that fun stuff. Sometimes it feels like you're on a different path than the actual system that you're working in. A common example that I hear about in my work today when I'm out in the community working with agencies and other social workers or social service delivery is related to this area of reconciliation, where we're reconciliation between Canadians and Indigenous peoples. So many of us find ourselves farther ahead in our personal journeys of reconciliation than the systems that we work within. So we see the persisting problems, the injustices, if you will, in this void between good intentions and implementation for change. Now, moral courage is a critical ingredient to addressing that gap. So moral courage. This exists. It's a really beautiful concept, idea, framework for understanding, and it exists across many different disciplines and experiences, but seeing how social work is my jam, I'm going to share with you about moral courage in that context. These are lessons on moral courage from Cindy Blackstock, who is a very prominent, well-known social worker, advocate, and leader in the area. All right, so moral courage is needed to blow the whistle on long-standing rights violations perpetrated by powerful institutions and individuals when pressing for better services for clients requires rocking the boat with colleagues or the employers. Right? So this is where we see things are not really working the way that we wish that they would, and we've got to rock that boat. On a personal level, we might be having conversations about morals and ethics for justice, but it takes courage to give public voice to those courageous stances, right? So you might be in your circles of influence on weekends and you might be talking about what's right or wrong, different values, but you're still going to work the next day in a system that maybe those things don't actually align with your personal values or morals. And it takes a great deal of courage to be able to speak about those things publicly. The degree of moral courage required increases as the risks become more personal and intense. So we talk about this with young social workers who are just fired up for social justice, and I love that about them. But we're like, go slow. We don't want you to get fired on your first day. You know, we want you to challenge the systems, but do it in a good way, right? And that takes practice. And standing up can be misguided if based on self-interest, ambition, unresolved personal issues, or weak research. So we don't want our young people or ourselves running around trying to, do all the things unless it's really informed. Now, courage is not a value on its own. Rather, it's an activating agent of values, and I really like that. So courage, again, it's not a value, but it's the thing that allows us to be able to reach the values or implement those values. Moral courage requires individuals to understand their own moral values. So when I mentioned that here at Booth with social work students and with all students, we learn about ourselves, we challenge ourselves, we figure out who we are, what we believe in, and what we want to do in the world, right? And this is really important because it gives us vision for our impact. And we have to consider the cost of doing nothing. So when we see a problem, we really need to think about, what if I say nothing? What's going to happen? So thinking back to the example of the MMIW, right? So what's the cost of doing nothing? If we continue to not speak out, we continue not to act, what is the cost of that? And moral courage, like I've said, it must be informed by good evidence, policy results, and meaningful consultation with those involved. So you need to be actively involved in the community with the group that you are wanting to promote justice for. And I'm going to talk very quickly also about allyship, because allyship is a role that a lot of us probably find ourselves in or have the privilege of being in, whether it be in our own communities or for our students. And I think the term allyship tends to be performative, much like some land acknowledgements, reconciliation, and some other important topics, but we don't have time to get into those today. So it can be limited to good intentions, like I said earlier. But in reality, to be an ally or to demonstrate allyship can sometimes require that critical ingredient that we call moral courage. And it's a much greater responsibility than we might initially think. So we hear lots of people say, yeah, I'm an ally. I'm an ally. Social workers love that, right? We're allies for justice. But when you really take a moment to learn about what that means and think about what the action that's required, we sometimes find ourselves that maybe we're not really allies quite yet, right? So we have a responsibility to deconstruct systematic prejudice and discrimination. So when we see those challenges happening in the systems or institutions that we work in, we have a responsibility to deconstruct them. Allyship goes beyond good intentions. You must be willing to be uncomfortable. You must be willing to struggle alongside the oppressed groups of people. There's an example of attendance versus showing up. So if you get invited to a dinner party, you might just show up, or you might come with a candle and a gift. There's this notion of reciprocity and really buying in, right? So think about that when you're out there, when acting as an ally, even if it's for students, right? Are we just showing up, or how invested are we? What is the actions that's demonstrating our investment? An ally must participate in self-examination, critical thinking, awareness, and education while working towards ending oppression. Allies offer support by establishing meaningful relationships with people and communities of the non-dominant group that they wish to ally themselves, and to ensure accountability to those people and communities. So again, accountability comes with relationship. When we have authentic relationships, we get to understand our roles and our responsibilities, and this, again, idea of reciprocity, that buy-in and commitment. So it's not just a show up to a protest and all of a sudden you're an ally. That's attending. that's not showing up. And allyship is resistance. That's my favorite kind of allyship. It's about resisting the unjust political structures that put people in positions of power. So really questioning power and how those decisions come to be. So I've got the 2-minute warning here, I think. But I hope you've gained some insight into how one might conceptualize and mobilize justice, especially in a social service context. And I want to thank you for being part of my circle of influence this morning. And I hope you're inspired to reflect, learn more, and have conversations about these topics at your tables and with your students in whatever way that they relate to you. Thank you.
To close out our time together, I'd like to introduce you to our Vice President Academic and Dean, Dr. Linda Schwartz. Linda is very thankful to be back in Winnipeg after 23 years away in BC and Alberta. She served in various leadership roles in post-secondary education. She is a passionate advocate of learning that is active and responsive to student inquiry. Linda has been privileged to work in numerous environments that support and foster innovation in learning and has been involved in the development and realization of unique post-secondary programs in humanities, social sciences, creative, fine and performing arts, and in core curriculum. Welcome, Linda.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you all for being here today. We've enjoyed having you, and the conversations around the tables have been stimulating. My own, certainly, and as I've noticed, others engaging in conversation with some animated gestures. I want to talk to you a little bit today about student success, and student success as it relates to the transition from secondary to post-secondary education. Student success is dependent on many factors and is identified by qualities such as insatiable curiosity, which is motivated by the ability to ask good questions. That's not something that's innate. That's something that's learned. Secondly, confidence to tackle new challenges, which are honed by learning that permits a wide range of success and failure, because it's okay to fail. That's how we learn. And thirdly, competence. Competence that is shaped by many learning experiences that not only increase knowledge, but establish a wisdom about the world that they must navigate. We want to ensure that our students are ready for the next stages of learning, new skills and concepts, so we scaffold the experience, introducing new ideas and challenging their thinking in stages that permit their growth and enlarge their perspectives. Booth would like to partner with each of you in preparing students for that next stage of learning by offering an opportunity for those who are ready for the next level of learning while they're still completing secondary studies. One of the best ways to prepare for the major shift to post-secondary studies is to scaffold learning through a transitional experience of university culture and environment while still completing high school. Many of you are currently or have been part of secondary education settings that offer advanced placement or international baccalaureate courses in the context of a high school experience. These are excellent ways to prepare learners and give them a jump start on the post-secondary experience. I would like to propose, however, an alternative for you to consider this morning that for many high school students would be both challenging and rewarding, and would in fact complete a holistic transition to university studies. I'm talking about dual credit, the ability to earn post-secondary course credit while completing high school requirements. So if you could allow me to just give you a little bit of an overview of what we are thinking in terms of reaching out to potential partners to engage in this kind of transitional activity. I would appreciate any feedback that you have to offer and would certainly consider seriously working with you as a partner with us in delivering that transitional experience. Let me share 5 reasons why dual credit may be appealing for your students. Number 1, this is an immersive experience. Unlike AP or IB, which is done within the context of the high school, students are on site, in other words, on the post-secondary campus, in the learning environment, whether they choose an in-person or a virtual synchronous experience. They take advantage of all that the university has to offer, including things like access to the library, access to the academic learning center, access to student supports. Number 2, students study with university faculty, and they do so in the context of having access to faculty outside of class during office hours or by scheduled appointment, just like any other university student. Number 3, students are able to apply course credit earned in a post-secondary course to their high school, grade 12. And the transcripts both would carry the credential through a partner arrangement with the school or the district. And I want to talk a little bit more about that in my concluding remarks. Number 4, students can take their university intro course credits in small classes where they receive personalized attention rather than sitting in a large lecture hall with 299 other students like themselves. Number 5, students have already begun a degree program, whether they realize it or not, after taking one course, and could choose to apply to complete a program of university studies at Booth University College or transfer their positive experience earned here to any other post-secondary of their choice. It's up to them. How would this be possible? What would be the stepping stones to be able to do this kind of partnership together? Well, through partnership, by means of school-initiated courses, note, not AP or IB courses, but school-initiated courses, Booth University College faculty across humanities, social sciences, business, and social work would be delighted to team up with your teachers to design courses or to match learning outcomes between existing courses at both institutions so that a major, unique initiative and experience can be created for your seniors who are doing their final year. Now, if I can be permitted to provide a short model of process, let's say we have high school X, and high school X is interested in either meeting a student demand for a new school-initiated course, not yet developed, or offering an existing school-initiated course with a post-secondary partner, because there may not be a faculty member who's equipped at the high school necessarily to offer in a particular area of specialization. Booth University College could partner with you. Our faculty have skills in curriculum development and in scaffolding learning that facilitate successful course design and delivery for both secondary and post-secondary credit. That equals partnership. It takes work to build something that has the kind of learning outcomes that can address both spaces, and to do it well. We would welcome the opportunity to offer courses that are designed jointly to your students. Students entering or completing grade 12 requirements would be welcome, with appropriate planning, to take 1 or 2 dual credit courses that appear on both high school and university transcripts, and that in fact could facilitate the learning transition to post-secondary education. This is not a fast track, but it is a very, very seamless transition that can help that big shift that takes place in the educational transaction. Please speak with me for a few moments after the breakfast to learn more about how your school, in fact, might become a partner with Booth. And I am happy through Georgine's office to supply you with lots of print information, electronically of course, that you can peruse at your leisure and that you can review with colleagues in your school environments. Thanks for taking the time to consider my opportunity and invitation today.
Thank you, Linda. And as I'll just reiterate, if you do want to speak with Linda, please do so after. If you get back to work and you decide this is something, in the car, you're thinking that I'm really interested in and I didn't get Linda's card, the information on your table has our email address on it, admissions@boothuc.ca. Just shoot us an email. It'll get to me via Connie and it'll get to Linda. So thank you very, very much. I always enjoy hearing Linda speak. She's got some interesting perspectives, and this is an amazing concept that we hope to partner with you on. So funny, because I wrote these notes before I knew what others were saying, and so in my concluding remarks, I'm going to reiterate a lot of what was already said, which is good. It means we're all on the same page. Booth UC is an institution whose vocation is to bring mercy, hope, and social justice into the world through education. And I know that's been said a few times, including with Jen, so thank you. Our applications are free, and in doing that, we delineate, there's no socioeconomic restrictions to applying at Booth University College. Everyone can apply, all domestic applications are free. So there's no harm in trying. If your students are interested, say there's no harm in trying. Reach out. Our student-centered approach to education is evidenced by the fact that our classroom size average is 16 students. So there's not 299 in a class. Our faculty to student ratio is 1 to 13. All faculty are advisors. Your students will have faculty as an advisor. So it's an extremely student-centered approach. We have learning resources like those that Talita spearheads in the Academic Learning Center. We have mental and physical health supports rigorous through student services. We have rigorous curriculum, as Linda mentioned, flexibility in course delivery methods, outstanding faculty and leadership in our schools of humanities, social sciences, business, and in social work. All of this makes us who we are. I know we produce critical thinkers like Jen, and like Isaiah, who is also a grad, and like Andrew is also a grad. I might have missed a couple, but who have come back to become faculty as critical thinkers. And they make a difference in our world. And if our vocation of hope, mercy, and social justice aligns with yours, together we can make a difference. We really can, and meet the needs of your students. So many thanks to all of you who made this event possible, and there are many, but especially to you, our guests, who made the journey here to share a meal with us and to share your stories and to listen. We look forward to continuing our conversations in the months and years to come. Take care. Thank you very much. If you wish to have a tour, we will meet you at the back of the room, and we wish you safe journey home. Have a good day. Thanks.